that they have to overcome.
Okay, so let me ask you a flip question, Joe, as a business. Okay. I am a legacy OEM. Okay, I'm building a car. And you, Tesla, comes out with this new approach and have reduced your manufacturing time 30% and your plant investment. You're coming to the market. Do I start losing share? Okay, so which is so as an OEM, I have to make a decision and say there is this threat out there. Now, how? Okay, so what is the big
Hi, this is Randy Kirk, and I'm going to bring you something very different than I normally do. There was a long conversation that was had on a video yesterday that I wanted to chop up and kind of bring to you piece by piece. And you're going to probably find out that I'm not very good at this. In fact, I'm using paper today. This is going to be a very high-tech conversation. And in this particular case, I've had to add back some really old tech, right? So pen and paper, who knew? So this is a conversation that was had with Matthew Vakaparampik. Anyway, he has a company called CareSoft, which has 2,300 engineers that are doing teardowns on automobiles, and they have spent over 100,000. He says it's eventually getting close to 200,000 hours taking a look at Tesla's Unboxed process and what that is going to mean to the rest of the automotive world. There's a lot of clarity in this video. We're going to take a look at the clarity that he brings to the situation, because what you're looking at is, I don't want to give away the ending here, but the ending is Tesla is so far ahead that even if Matthew is able to convince some of these OEMs, and he talks about the OEMs, he doesn't talk about the specific brands that he's working with, but let's just say mostly these are Chinese brands that are willing to jump in and start going towards Unboxed, just like they've been chasing Tesla on the other components of what they've been doing, the advanced componentry that they've been trying, the ways that they've been using gigacastings, et cetera. That even if the Chinese companies started today to put together their version of Unboxed, they're going to be a year or a year and a half behind Tesla, just like they were a year or a year and a half behind on gigacastings. When it comes to the other OEMs, the US companies, the German companies, the Japanese companies that are just stuck in the mud, and he points out again and again that it's going to take them, maybe it'll take them another year for them to decide that they even want to get into Unboxed. But if they do decide even within a year to do it, then it's going to take them another year or two before they even have a product on the road, which will put them 2 years behind Tesla. And who knows what Tesla will be doing at that point. That will be yet again ahead of what they're doing. So anyway, I want to get into the rest of the conversation here. Let's go ahead and listen to what Matthew has to say.
Even this morning, I use WeChat with my Chinese customers. The top benchmarked company, even for the Chinese, is still Tesla. Okay, it's still Tesla. Before COVID, they would ask us about other companies, other OEMs. Today, the Chinese don't even bother. They're interested in Tesla or themselves.
Right, not Volkswagen.
So again, you get the point here in the beginning. He's talking about the fact that his company has spent 100,000 plus engineering hours to put together a program which they can provide. They can say, okay, here's exactly how you do it. You can use our engineers or your engineers to implement it. Are you interested in trying your best to catch up with Tesla with regard to this methodology? And basically, his Chinese customers are very interested. One of them is apparently ready to sign on the dotted line, but the U.S. customers or potential customers and the German folks, the Japanese, nope. They're, well, let's give it some thought. We'll get back to you. That is not going to be a winning solution in the near term, much less the long term.
New way of looking at manufacturing and so on. So we have been working on the digital twin of these vehicles, legacy OEM and Tesla, which showed what they're doing, and we can see the evolution from, say, the S to the X to the 3 to the Y. and we can see the changes. So for example, after we see a huge steps change after the Model 3. The Model 3, Tesla talks about, or Elon Musk talks about production hell. And I think there was in the Tesla Y, you can see a great improvement in 2020, where they went to modular build and gigacastings to simplify parts and so on and so forth. Then you go to 2021, the two-piece gigacasting becomes a single-piece gigacasting.
And this is in the rear.
In the rear. Mm-hmm. And then in 2022, or a latter part, you see the front gigacasting, the rear gigacasting, and no floor. So when you look at that path and then you see what they announced in India, it's very clear they're going mod. It appears to us, at least to us, that we may be right, we may be wrong, but that they're going to unbox the vehicle. So we have now full data. We have built an entire car, which is what we think the new Tesla of the future is going to be, which is totally unboxed. We built the whole digital twin for it. Last week, it met all US crash requirements. So we have a very good idea of what the new Tesla is going to be like.
Can I just pick? I'll let John ask a question. I swear it, but I want to use the term unboxed, which is the Tesla term, and I think you've come up with another. But I think and I've seen both diagrams or presentations from yourself, but also from Tesla. It seems like what you're talking about is that traditionally, you'd have a body in white would be built up, and it would be a box. It would be a car, and then it would go into paint. And
so here again, what we're looking at is the revolution so far, and what they've done is they've completely established their own unboxed process. They have proven out with an actual vehicle that it could meet all the safety requirements. And in so doing, what they've realized is that they can save, that Tesla or anybody else can save tremendous amounts of money. We'll talk about these cost savings downstream, but you can see the slide that they provided here in terms of some of the traditional way of doing it, $36 billion. The Tesla unboxed approach taking $25 billion with almost $11 billion savings on Tesla's plan to get to 20 million vehicles. So you can see that if Tesla, and he's going to talk about this, if you want to get to 36 factories is how many it would take under the traditional way. But if you go to the other way, you won't need as many factories because you're going to get 30% more throughput. Now, Tesla, I think, believes it'll be even more than that because guess what? There's going to be more innovation coming. So let's take a look at the next clip here.
Isn't what you're talking about that the box doesn't get built until way later in the process, and it doesn't go through paint? Talk about that.
Sure. So we call this the game model, which is the global automotive modular evolution that's happening. So going back to first principles, and when we look at, let me give you an example of how we think, the leaders think, and here in this case, the leader is undoubtedly Tesla. So when they came.
So there you have, the leader is undoubtedly Tesla. Well, yeah, we got that. So
out of the vehicle with no floor. What the question I think they asked was, hey, why do we have a floor? And why do we have under a piece of metal on the top of the battery and two pieces of metal with some air in between? Why can't we replace it with one? So they asked these fundamental questions. So I think in the game model or unboxed build, the box comes from when you had a horse-drawn carriage. There was a box that went behind the horse. And the first cars was you remove the horse and you put an engine. So, and then what later to style, you covered the engine, and then that's how the body in white kind of evolved. This has not been challenged for 100 years. Okay, the model of assembly line and so on, that's the most efficient thing, including Toyota coming to see Henry Ford's assembly line in Dearborn and so on. I think maybe Elon or maybe some of his key leaders challenge and say, okay, we have this box go on, like you said. Okay, we build it in the body shop with robots. Then we put it on the paint shop. Then we put it in the assembly line. And in the assembly line, there's a term that they is being used often by Tesla, which is called operator density. So essentially, to assemble anything around the vehicle, you have to go around the vehicle. Now, what happens if you could split the vehicle? You can see it clearly. You can split the vehicle into a front module, a rear module, a battery module, and put the two sides together and assemble these each individual components separately. Then it's more efficient because around this box, when you send the box through the paint shop, for example, 80% of that box is air.
Yeah.
85%, whatever the volumetrically.
Mhm.
That's waste because you're heating up that oven.
Mhm.
Okay. You're creating carbon footprint. You're creating all those things. So this is all the things that we have been similarly working on for to say, and that's how we have concrete data from the product digital twin. We built the entire manufacturing digital twin, and we can, and then the plant investment, we have laid out every station in the line with this build and how it reduces plant surface area, or the manufacturing plant surface area by around at least 35 to 40%. And then there's an opportunity now, because you're building modules, you can introduce robots in.
Okay.
30, you can.
Or even other simple automation.
I think I've made an error a little while ago. Let me correct that error. Now that I've listened to this video for the third time, I think that they've actually only created a digital twin version of a vehicle. They have not actually produced a physical vehicle and tested that on the track. There's a couple of times where he talks about this where I think he was unclear, certainly unclear to me, but now I think it is a digital twin. Let's go on.
Yes,
Not just robot.
yes, simple automation and so on. So, and the most important thing, one, it takes out, it reduces the number of hours it takes to assemble a car, and also it significantly reduces the plant investment. So, we did also a calculation based on this data and everything working backwards, because we have laid out all three assembly lines. That is the legacy OEM's assembly line, the Tesla Y assembly line, and the future Tesla assembly line. And we, from a financial perspective, and with Tesla's announcements that they want to build 20 million vehicles by 2030, the savings in just in manufacturing plant investment is around $11 billion. And that's based on the amount of equipment that they have purchased in Austin, which they have filed with the county in Austin for their manufacturing, for their building permits. So if you work backwards, it's around, if you need 18 million more units, and assuming 500,000 units per plant, 36 plants, it's $36 billion. We estimate at least a 30% reduction in investment, which means Tesla will save at least $11 billion.
And it's 500,000.
So they've saved, again, I kind of pointed this out before, but I think it's important to understand this is what Tesla would save. Okay, this is something he never really gets to. Tesla would save, based on their current extremely lean, incredibly good return on invested capital. They have the best in the world. Maybe Apple's a little better at return on invested capital, but it isn't worth talking about. Tesla is so far ahead of anybody else, certainly anybody else in the automotive world, on return on invested capital. And what he's saying is they're already that far ahead of the other automotive makers. You can see it sometimes with the plans that these automotive makers make. They'll say, well, we're going to spend $4 billion and we're going to make, 200,000 cars a year. Tesla comes out and says, we're going to spend $2 billion and make 500,000 cars a year. So you get the idea of the kind of differential between Tesla and the rest of the world when it comes to how much money they have to invest in a plant in order to get X throughput. So with that already having been said, he's saying that he's done the modeling now, and he agrees. Tesla has said, I think that they would save even more than that, but let's just go with 30%. If they save 30% as they scale up to 20 million, he believes the savings would be around 11 billion compared to the amount that they would have spent if they continued on with the Model Y method of doing things. So that is, of course, hugely significant. And we'll now take a look at the next clip.